beneath the boundless skies of New Mexico, where the desert stretches into a horizon painted with fire and shadow, there is a silence that speaks. It's the kind of silence that makes you feel watched, the kind that seems to echo with footsteps that aren't yours, whispers that don't belong to the wind. This land, ancient and haunted, holds stories older than the state itself, tales carved into stone, buried in the ruins of pueblos, and lingering in the darkened halls of abandoned buildings. From mission churches touched by tragedy, to lonely stretches of highway where headlights disappear into another world, New Mexico's ghosts do not rest easily. Tonight, I'll take you through 20 of the most haunted places in New Mexico, each with its own secrets, each waiting for someone brave enough to listen. So, keep your eyes open. The St. James Hotel in Cimarron, New Mexico, is more than a historic stop on the old Santa Fe Trail. It's a time capsule of the Wild West, steeped in violence, luck, and restless spirits. Built in 1872 by Henry Lambert, a former chef for President Abraham Lincoln, the hotel was intended as a place of comfort and refinement in a town that was anything but peaceful. Cimarron was a magnet for cowboys, gamblers, outlaws, and lawmen, and the St. James quickly became their gathering place. The hotel's saloon was its heart, and it earned a deadly reputation early on. Tempers often flared over high-stakes poker games, unpaid debts, or drunken insults. Gunfights were a common occurrence, and it's said that at least 26 people lost their lives in the building. The ceiling above the bar still bears the scars. Over 20 bullet holes remain as a testament to its bloody past. Legends claim that Wyatt Earp, Jesse James, Buffalo Bill Cody, and Bat Masterson all stayed here. But the hotel's most famous long-term residents aren't the living. They read the ghosts that wander its halls. Over the years, countless guests have reported unexplained phenomena, and the St. James has embraced its reputation as one of the most haunted places in the Southwest. The air inside carries an atmosphere that's hard to explain. Guests often mention feeling as though they're being watched, even when alone. The temperature in certain hallways will suddenly drop, and the scent of cigar smoke sometimes drifts past, even though no one nearby is smoking. Staff members have grown used to these moments, brushing them off with a smile and a shrug. But they'll be the first to tell you that the hotel is never truly quiet. One of the most infamous spirits said to linger here is that of Thomas James Wright, a gambler who met a violent end in the 1800s. Wright had just won a particularly large poker game and was headed to his room, number 18, when he was shot in the back in the hallway. He died in the doorway, never making it inside. Room 18 has carried a strange energy ever since. The owners keep it off limits, not out of superstition alone, but because of the stories tied to it. According to local lore, anyone who has stayed in room 18 has suffered bad luck, sudden illness, financial ruin, or even death. Guests who have ignored the warnings and managed to slip inside have reported the bed shaking violently, icy blasts of air sweeping through the space, and the sensation of hands pressing down on their chest while they sleep. Some have seen the silhouette of a man standing in the corner, his outline hazy, his hat pulled low over his face. Elsewhere in the hotel, the ghost of Mary Lambert, Henry's wife, is said to wander the upper floors. Guests have described the faint scent of roses announcing her presence, followed by the sight of a woman in 19th-century clothing gliding silently past doorways. Some believe Mary is a protective spirit, watching over guests, while others say her appearance is an omen that something unsettling is about to happen. The saloon also has its share of spectral activity. Patrons have seen shadowy figures leaning against the bar, only to vanish when approached. Glasses will sometimes slide down the counter without anyone touching them, and a piano in the corner has been known to play a few haunting notes on its own late at night. Bartenders have heard phantom laughter, muffled as though coming from another era, even when the room is empty. On the second floor, cold spots appear in warm weather, and doors sometimes slam without cause. Guests in certain rooms have reported waking in the night to see a man in a long coat standing by the foot of their bed, staring silently before fading into the air. In one particularly chilling account, a guest claimed the man tipped his hat, turned, and walked straight through the closed door. The hotel staircases seem to hold their own secrets. People have felt a strong, invisible push while climbing them, as though someone doesn't want them to go up. Footsteps echo on the wooden stairs in the early morning hours, even when no one is there. Staff say these phantom sounds are so common they've stopped trying to explain them. Despite its eerie reputation, the St. James Hotel remains a popular destination for history buffs, ghost hunters, and travelers looking for a taste of the Old West. Visitors often come seeking a brush with history, but many leave with a ghost story of their own. There's an undeniable feeling that the hotel's past lingers in its walls, that the echoes of gunshots, laughter, and whispered conversations never truly left. Whether it's the restless spirit of Thomas James Wright guarding room 18, Mary Lambert watching over her guests, or the nameless figures that drift through the saloon, the St. James Hotel remains a place where history and the supernatural walk side by side. La Posada Hotel in Santa Fe, New Mexico, stands today as a symbol of luxury and historic elegance. Its vibrant adobe walls and ornate architecture drawing visitors from across the globe. But beneath its beautiful exterior lies a history steeped in sorrow and mystery. A story that continues to linger in the hallways and guest rooms of the hotel. Long before it became a celebrated destination, La Posada was the mansion of Julia Staub, a young German woman who married a wealthy local merchant in the 19th century. While the union brought her into a world of comfort, Julia's life was marked by tragedy, and her untimely death cast a shadow that some say never lifted. Julia Staub's story is intertwined with grief and loss. Historical records indicate that she endured the death of multiple children, a heartache that would have been devastating even in a modern context, let alone in the more precarious conditions of the 19th century. Visitors to La Posada often recount feeling an inexplicable heaviness in certain rooms, a sensation that seems to echo the sorrow Julia carried in life. The mansion, now a hotel, retains a sense of her presence, with unexplained cold spots, sudden chills, and fleeting shadows appearing where none should exist. Many guests report seeing the figure of a woman in period clothing walking through the halls, her silhouette ethereal, sometimes fading as she passes. She is most commonly described as wearing a flowing Victorian gown, reminiscent of the attire Julia would have worn. Some have observed her pausing at the tops of staircases, looking down as though surveying the house, or standing silently in rooms that were once nurseries, gazing at empty cradles. These appearances are usually brief, lasting only a few seconds, but they leave an indelible impression. Doors in La Posada have a tendency to open and close of their own accord. Guests report entering a room only to find a door slowly swinging shut, sometimes accompanied by a soft sigh or the sound of distant footsteps, often small items like books or personal effects being found in places they were not left. Some guests have claimed that mirrors fog over suddenly, revealing the faint shape of a woman's face staring back at them, only to vanish when approached. These occurrences are subtle but persistent, suggesting a presence that interacts with the living in quiet, almost playful ways. The hotel's guest rooms are a particularly active area for paranormal phenomena. Several visitors have reported waking in the middle of the night to the sensation of being watched, or the feeling of a cold hand lightly brushing their shoulder or cheek. The rooms retain a stillness that seems different from ordinary silence. It is a quiet charged with the weight of memory, a lingering sense of someone observing without malice. Guests often describe this presence as both unsettling and melancholic, a reflection of Julia Staub's own life and the tragedies she endured. La Posada's public areas, including its grand hallways, dining rooms, and libraries, are not exempt from these mysterious happenings. Chairs sometimes move slightly from where they were placed, and lights flicker unpredictably, even when all electrical systems are functioning normally. Some visitors report faint whispers in languages that seem foreign, echoing softly off the walls, while others claim to hear the sound of a soft weeping or sighing, as if the mansion itself mourns the losses of its past. The hotel's staff are familiar with these occurrences, and often speak of experiences that defy conventional explanation. A door closing as a guest approaches, a sudden drop in temperature in one section of the hall, or the faint scent of floral perfume lingering without source. Paranormal investigators who have explored La Posada note consistent patterns in the reports of activity. Cold spots appear frequently in certain areas of the mansion, and cameras occasionally capture anomalies. Misty forms, orbs of light, or indistinct shapes moving through hallways. Audio recordings sometimes pick up low-frequency sounds resembling soft footsteps or distant sobs. While some may attribute these occurrences to the building's age or environmental factors, the consistency and specificity of the experiences suggest a presence with a distinct connection to the mansion's history and former occupants. Despite the haunted reputation, many guests describe their encounters with the spirit as more poignant than frightening. Julia's presence is often described as sorrowful, reflective, or even protective. People report feeling a gentle reassurance when standing in her favored rooms or ascending the main staircase. Some have remarked that the sense of being accompanied by an unseen presence is calming rather than threatening, as if the spirit remains to watch over the living while preserving the memory of her own tragic story. The combination of La Posada's architectural beauty and its haunted history creates a compelling experience. Guests are drawn not only to its luxury and charm, but also to the stories of the past that permeate its walls. The mansion-turned-hotel stands as a living testament to a life of love, loss, and lingering sorrow. Julia Staub's story, tragic as it was in the 19th century, has become immortalized in the continued presence of her spirit, bridging centuries and reminding all who entered that some histories are never truly left behind. Visitors leave La Posada with memories of both beauty and mystery. Some recount fleeting glimpses of a figure in a long dress. Others speak of sudden chills, whispered sounds, or the sensation of being gently observed. These experiences, subtle yet persistent, make the hotel more than just a place to stay. It is a place where the past and present converge, where the life and sorrow of Julia Staub continue to echo in the hallways, staircases, and guest rooms. The legacy of La Posada Hotel is thus a blend of historic elegance and the spectral traces of a life marked by grief, offering guests an unforgettable encounter with both history and the unexplained. Whether one believes in ghosts or sees them as manifestations of memory and loss, La Posada Hotel remains a site where the stories of the past live on. For those who wander its halls after dark, the mansion's history is never distant. It is felt, seen, and sometimes even touched, a ghostly testament to the woman whose life and spirit shaped this iconic Santa Fe landmark. Old Mesilla Plaza in Mesilla, New Mexico, is more than a picturesque gathering place with charming adobe buildings, vibrant markets, and a rich cultural heritage. Beneath its colorful facades and lively atmosphere lies a history steeped in violence, lawlessness, and unresolved tragedy. From the mid-1800s onward, the plaza was a center of commerce, social life, and frontier justice, events that have left an indelible mark on the land and, many say, its spirits. After a tumultuous life of theft, shootouts, and escapes, he was captured and tried in Mesilla. The courthouse and the surrounding plaza hosted his trial, where tension ran high and the townspeople gathered to witness justice. On the day of his hanging, the plaza itself became a stage for both history and spectacle, a site where life and death intertwined. Today, visitors often claim to feel the residue of those tense moments, as if the plaza itself remembers the energy of the crowd, the outlaws, and the lawmen who once filled its streets. Sightings of Billy the Kid are among the most persistent legends associated with Old Mesilla Plaza. Witnesses describe a young man in 19th century attire, often leaning casually against the walls of adobe buildings, his demeanor nonchalant but watchful. Some visitors report that when they look away and then back, he has vanished, leaving only the faint scent of gunpowder or the subtle creak of boots on the cobblestones. The apparition is rarely threatening. Rather, it carries the air of someone bound to a place by unresolved history, a restless spirit replaying moments from a violent past. The plaza's ghostly reputation is not limited to Billy the Kid alone. Like live rounds fired from invisible revolvers, others hear the faint shuffle of boots on the cobblestone, footsteps that seem deliberate yet vanish when approached. These auditory phenomena often coincide with the hour when the plaza was historically busiest, as if the echoes of the past are frozen in time, replaying fragments of old confrontations and hurried escapes. Shops and businesses lining the plaza also contribute to its haunted reputation. Proprietors report objects moving without explanation, cash registers opening, merchandise shifting, or utensils sliding across counters. Shadowy figures are sometimes glimpsed in the corners of rooms, disappearing when anyone attempts to approach. Some employees claim that the movements are deliberate, almost as if the spirits are still interacting with the living world, maintaining a connection to the environment they once inhabited. Tourists have reported feeling sudden chills or the sense of being watched while browsing, a subtle reminder that the plaza's history is never far from the present. The adobe buildings themselves seem to hold the echoes of their violent past. Heavy wooden doors creak open when no wind is present, and old windows rattle for no apparent reason. Some witnesses describe hearing muffled conversations or heated arguments, voices that rise and fall as though trapped between walls. In the courthouse, now a museum, visitors have reported the sensation of invisible presences standing behind them, as if the spirits of jurors, witnesses, or defendants linger still. The combination of auditory, visual, and tactile experiences creates an immersive sense of history, one that blurs the line between the living and the dead. The cobblestone streets of the plaza play a central role in these supernatural accounts. Footsteps echo unnaturally, sometimes increasing in tempo as if someone is running, only to vanish entirely. On quiet nights, when the square is empty except for the occasional lantern or streetlight, the sounds of horse hooves and wagon wheels have been reported, accompanied by fleeting shadows darting across the stones. Some visitors swear they can feel the pressure of someone passing closely behind them, only to turn and find no one there. The plaza, it seems, retains the memories of its past, replaying moments of fear, excitement, and violence for those attuned to its energy. Among the most chilling tales are those connected to vigilante justice and executions. Beyond Billy the Kid, numerous other outlaws met their end in Mesilla, often in public view. Spectral forms of men hanging from ropes or struggling against invisible bonds have been reported at the edges of the plaza, accompanied by whispers and murmurs that cannot be traced to any living source. Witnesses describe the air growing colder, a palpable sense of dread settling over the space, as if the past is momentarily intersecting with the present. These experiences are sporadic but intense, leaving lasting impressions on anyone who encounters them. Local lore also suggests that the spirits of Mesilla are bound to the plaza by unresolved grievances and unfinished business. The combination of tragic deaths, lawless behavior, and public executions created emotional energy that the adobe structures and cobblestone streets absorbed. Those sensitive to paranormal activity claim that this energy manifests as both subtle and overt phenomena. Flickering lanterns, moving shadows, unexplained noises, and the occasional full apparition. Whether one believes in ghosts or sees these events as the residue of history, there is no denying that Old Mesilla Plaza evokes a profound sense of the past. Visitors to the plaza often feel a mix of fascination and unease. Walking among the historic buildings, they encounter a place alive with memory and lingering presence. Photographers have captured unexplained shadows and figures and images of the square, while historians and paranormal enthusiasts debate the nature of these occurrences. Some say the plaza offers a rare opportunity to experience history in motion, a glimpse into the lives, deaths, and spirits of those who shaped the frontier. The enduring appeal of Old Mesilla Plaza lies not only in its architecture, markets, and restaurants, but also in its spectral narrative. By day, it is a vibrant hub of culture and tourism. By night, it becomes a threshold between the present and a tumultuous past. The stories of Billy the Kid and the countless other figures who walked its streets continue to attract those drawn to the uncanny. unexplained sounds, and fleeting figures, all reinforcing the notion that the plaza is haunted by the echoes of its violent and storied history. For those who step onto the cobblestones of Old Mesilla Plaza, the experience is layered, part history lesson, part ghost story, and part personal journey into the weight of time. Or the subtle movements of objects in the plaza's shops. The square is alive with the past. The spirits of Mesilla, it seems, have never left, and anyone who wanders there after dark may find themselves walking among ghosts, hearing the whispers of the frontier, and feeling the lingering presence of a town where law, legend, and death collided. Old Mesilla Plaza in Mesilla, New Mexico, is more than a picturesque gathering place with charming adobe buildings, vibrant markets, and a rich cultural heritage. Beneath its colorful facades and lively atmosphere lies a history steeped in violence, lawlessness, and unresolved tragedy. From the mid-1800s onward, the plaza was a center of commerce, social life, and frontier justice, events that have left an indelible mark on the land and, many say, its spirits. After a tumultuous life of theft, shootouts, and escapes, he was captured and tried in Mesilla. The courthouse and the surrounding plaza hosted his trial, where tension ran high and the townspeople gathered to witness justice. On the day of his hanging, the plaza itself became a stage for both history and spectacle, a site where life and death intertwined. Today, visitors often claim to feel the residue of those tense moments, as if the plaza itself remembers the energy of the crowd, the outlaws, and the lawmen who once filled its streets. Sightings of Billy the Kid are among the most persistent legends associated with Old Mesilla Plaza. Witnesses describe a young man in 19th century attire, often leaning casually against the walls of adobe buildings, his demeanor nonchalant but watchful. Some visitors report that when they look away and then back, he has vanished, leaving only the faint scent of gunpowder or the subtle creak of boots on the cobblestones. The apparition is rarely threatening. Rather, it carries the air of someone bound to a place by unresolved history, a restless spirit replaying moments from a violent past. The plaza's ghostly reputation is not limited to Billy the Kid alone. Like live rounds fired from invisible revolvers, others hear the faint shuffle of boots on the cobblestone, footsteps that seem deliberate yet vanish when approached. These auditory phenomena often coincide with the hour when the plaza was historically busiest, as if the echoes of the past are frozen in time, replaying fragments of old confrontations and hurried escapes. Shops and businesses lining the plaza also contribute to its haunted reputation. Proprietors report objects moving without explanation, cash registers opening, merchandise shifting, or utensils sliding across counters. Shadowy figures are sometimes glimpsed in the corners of rooms, disappearing when anyone attempts to approach. Some employees claim that the movements are deliberate, almost as if the spirits are still interacting with the living world, maintaining a connection to the environment they once inhabited. Tourists have reported feeling sudden chills or the sense of being watched while browsing, a subtle reminder that the plaza's history is never far from the present. The adobe buildings themselves seem to hold the echoes of their violent past. Heavy wooden doors creak open when no wind is present, and old windows rattle for no apparent reason. Some witnesses describe hearing muffled conversations or heated arguments, voices that rise and fall as though trapped between walls. In the courthouse, now a museum, visitors have reported the sensation of invisible presences standing behind them, as if the spirits of jurors, witnesses, or defendants linger still. The combination of auditory, visual, and tactile experiences creates an immersive sense of history, one that blurs the line between the living and the dead. The cobblestone streets of the plaza play a central role in these supernatural accounts. Footsteps echo unnaturally, sometimes increasing in tempo as if someone is running, only to vanish entirely. On quiet nights, when the square is empty except for the occasional lantern or streetlight, the sounds of horse hooves and wagon wheels have been reported, accompanied by fleeting shadows darting across the stones. Some visitors swear they can feel the pressure of someone passing closely behind them, only to turn and find no one there. The plaza, it seems, retains the memories of its past, replaying moments of fear, excitement, and violence for those attuned to its energy. Among the most chilling tales are those connected to vigilante justice and executions. Beyond Billy the Kid, numerous other outlaws met their end in Mesilla, often in public view. Spectral forms of men hanging from ropes or struggling against invisible bonds have been reported at the edges of the plaza, accompanied by whispers and murmurs that cannot be traced to any living source. Witnesses describe the air growing colder, a palpable sense of dread settling over the space, as if the past is momentarily intersecting with the present. These experiences are sporadic but intense, leaving lasting impressions on anyone who encounters them. Local lore also suggests that the spirits of Mesilla are bound to the plaza by unresolved grievances and unfinished business. The combination of tragic deaths, lawless behavior, and public executions created emotional energy that the adobe structures and cobblestone streets absorbed. Those sensitive to paranormal activity claim that this energy manifests as both subtle and overt phenomena. Flickering lanterns, moving shadows, unexplained noises, and the occasional full apparition. Whether one believes in ghosts or sees these events as the residue of history, there is no denying that Old Mesilla Plaza evokes a profound sense of the past. Visitors to the plaza often feel a mix of fascination and unease. Walking among the historic buildings, they encounter a place alive with memory and lingering presence. Photographers have captured unexplained shadows and figures and images of the square, while historians and paranormal enthusiasts debate the nature of these occurrences. Some say the plaza offers a rare opportunity to experience history in motion, a glimpse into the lives, deaths, and spirits of those who shaped the frontier. The enduring appeal of Old Mesilla Plaza lies not only in its architecture, markets, and restaurants, but also in its spectral narrative. By day, it is a vibrant hub of culture and tourism. By night, it becomes a threshold between the present and a tumultuous past. The stories of Billy the Kid and the countless other figures who walked its streets continue to attract those drawn to the uncanny. Unexplained sounds and fleeting figures, all reinforcing the notion that the plaza is haunted by the echoes of its violent and storied history. For those who step onto the cobblestones of Old Mesilla Plaza, the experience is layered, part history lesson, part ghost story, and part personal journey into the weight of time. Or the subtle movements of objects in the plaza's shops. The square is alive with the past. The spirits of Mesilla, it seems, have never left, and anyone who wanders there after dark may find themselves walking among ghosts, hearing the whispers of the frontier, and feeling the lingering presence of a town where law, legend, and death collided. Loreto Chapel in Santa Fe, New Mexico, is world-renowned for its architectural marvel. The miraculous staircase, built in the late 1800s, the staircase curves gracefully within the chapel, rising to full stories without any visible means of support, not a nail in sight. According to legend, the Sisters of Loreto prayed for a solution to reach the choir loft after the original design failed to include a staircase. In response, a mysterious carpenter appeared, built the staircase, seemingly by divine guidance, and then vanished without collecting payment. While the staircase remains a symbol of faith and ingenuity, the chapel itself has become the center of numerous accounts of unexplained phenomena, particularly after dark. Visitors and paranormal enthusiasts alike describe an eerie atmosphere that intensifies as the sun sets over the adobe walls of Santa Fe. The chapel, already steeped in history, seems to carry an energy that cannot be fully explained. Some report hearing footsteps echoing on the wooden floor near the staircase, even when the chapel is empty. The sounds are often described as light, deliberate, almost as though someone is ascending or descending in quiet contemplation. Yet, when onlookers rush to see who is there, they find no one, only the polished wood and the faint scent of old timber lingering in the air. The staircase itself is the focal point for many of the chapel's spectral stories. Some claim to have seen the outline of a man in late 19th century carpenter's clothing, moving with a purposeful grace, as though inspecting his work. The figure vanishes if approached, leaving behind only the sense of presence, a subtle chill, or the faint sound of tools clinking together. Others report feeling an invisible hand guiding them as they ascend the staircase, a sensation of being watched over, almost protective, as if the original builder's spirit still lingers to ensure the staircase remains intact. The chapel's pews and aisles are not exempt from paranormal activity. On quiet evenings, visitors sometimes hear whispers echoing from the corners of the sanctuary. Words indistinct yet undeniably human. The sounds carry a hushed quality, like prayers or advice given softly, almost imperceptibly. Candle flames have been reported flickering despite the absence of drafts, and doors that should remain closed creak open, sometimes slowly, as if inviting someone to explore. These phenomena create a sense of reverence mingled with unease, a subtle reminder that the chapel's history is not only of faith, but of human experience layered over decades. Some experiences are visual. Witnesses have reported shadowy figures near the choir loft, figures that move in ways inconsistent with ordinary human motion. On occasion, a translucent form resembling a man in a dusty, old-fashioned carpenter's coat has been seen pausing at the base of the staircase before disappearing entirely. Others speak of fleeting visions near the altar, where light seems to bend or reflect in impossible ways, creating shapes that vanish when observed directly. Photographs sometimes capture anomalies not visible to the naked eye. Faint outlines, wisps of mist, or glows that defy natural explanation. The chapel's chapel sacristy and adjacent rooms hold their own mysteries. Items have been known to move inexplicably, small objects appearing in different locations, or candles extinguishing themselves, despite being carefully tended. Visitors describe sudden cold spots in specific areas, most often near the base and top of the staircase. The sensation is not just a drop in temperature, but a tangible feeling of presence, as though someone or something is aware of their movements, silently observing. These experiences often intensify after sunset, when the chapel is quiet and shadows lengthen along the arched ceilings and walls. Paranormal investigators have noted unusual electromagnetic readings near the staircase and in the choir loft, adding to the theory that the chapel holds residual energy from its past. Some suggest that the mysterious carpenter who built the staircase may have imbued it with spiritual significance, intentionally or otherwise, leaving traces of energy that persist long after his disappearance. Others believe the activity represents the prayers and hopes of the Sisters of Loretto, whose faith and desperation may have created a lingering spiritual imprint. Regardless of interpretation, the experiences reported by visitors are consistent. Footsteps, whispers, fleeting shadows, and a sense of being accompanied by an unseen presence. Many local legends also emphasize the benevolent aspect of the spirits. People often describe feelings of comfort or reassurance when ascending the staircase, as if guided by a protective hand. The sensation is not threatening. Rather, it is intimate, almost personal. Some visitors claim that when they pause mid-ascent, they feel warmth or a slight pressure on their shoulder, subtle gestures that encourage them to continue, reflecting the miraculous and mysterious origins of the staircase itself. The experience blends faith and the paranormal, making Loretto Chapel a unique site where architectural wonder and spectral intrigue intersect. At night, when the chapel is dimly lit by candlelight or exterior illumination, the atmosphere becomes especially pronounced. Shadows stretch along the walls, and the polished wooden staircase gleams with an almost otherworldly light. Observers have described the feeling of being followed by unseen eyes, as though someone walks alongside them, maintaining an invisible presence. The combination of history, architecture, and unexplained activity creates an immersive experience that leaves many visitors both awed and unsettled. Even the chapel's surrounding grounds contribute to the legend. Sounds of distant footsteps on stone paths, faint voices carried on the wind, and glimpses of movement in peripheral vision all add layers to the sense that the chapel and its staircase are watched over by forces beyond human understanding. The boundary between the natural and supernatural seems blurred, with experiences that can feel deeply personal, yet widely reported by those who come to witness the miracle of the stairs. Loretto Chapel is more than a historical site. or architectural marvel. It is a place where the past and present converge in subtle yet undeniable ways. The miraculous staircase, a feat of engineering that defies logic, also serves as a conduit for stories of presence, protection, and mystery. From the soft echoes of footsteps to shadowy visions of the mysterious carpenter, visitors experience a blend of reverence, wonder, and unease. Each encounter, whether auditory, visual, or tactile, for those who enter Loretto Chapel, the experience is rarely only about architecture or history. The chapel invites visitors into a world where faith, mystery, and the unknown coexist. The stairs themselves, built without nails, continue to inspire awe, while the unseen presences remind us that some mysteries are never fully explained. The chapel holds its secrets quietly, offering glimpses of the miraculous, the unexplained, and the human stories that echo in the air, long after the carpenter vanished into history. Loretto Chapel in Santa Fe is a place where history, devotion, and mystery intertwine. Built in 1878, the chapel is renowned worldwide for its miraculous staircase, a spiral staircase that rises gracefully, without any visible means of support. Architects, engineers, and visitors alike marvel at the staircase, unable to explain how it could have been constructed with such precision and elegance. Yet beyond the awe it inspires, the chapel carries whispers of something far less tangible, a sense of lingering presence, of unseen figures moving silently through its sacred halls. Over the decades, countless visitors have reported experiences that defy explanation. The chapel, quiet and solemn by day, seems to transform after dark. Shadows stretch across the wooden pews in unusual ways, and some have felt a subtle shift in temperature, a sudden chill that lingers in the air without reason. Many believe these sensations are linked to the spirits of those who once walked the chapel regularly, particularly nuns who dedicated their lives to prayer and service within its walls. One of the most frequently recounted phenomena is the appearance of a nun, seen gliding silently through the pews at night. Witnesses describe her wearing a traditional habit, her presence calm and purposeful, as though she is still tending to the spiritual duties she carried out in life. She does not interact with visitors directly, nor does she display aggression. Rather, her presence evokes a mixture of reverence and unease. Those who have glimpsed her report a sensation of being observed, as if the nun is silently ensuring that the chapel remains a sacred space even after hours. The miraculous staircase itself seems to carry its own energy. Visitors often report feeling an unusual sense of gravity or weight as they ascend or descend its steps, a subtle unease that defies explanation. Some claim to hear faint whispers or soft footsteps, though the staircase is usually empty at the time. Paranormal investigators who have explored the chapel note unexplained shifts in electromagnetic readings around the staircase, as well as occasional, fleeting shadows captured on infrared cameras. These occurrences suggest that the staircase is more than a structural marvel. It is a focal point for the chapel's lingering spiritual energy. The chapel's architecture contributes to the otherworldly atmosphere. High vaulted ceilings, intricate wooden carvings, and sunlit stained glass windows create a space both grand and intimate. By day, the interplay of light and shadow draws admiration and contemplation. By night, however, the same features seem to amplify subtle sounds and movements. The creak of old wooden floors, the shifting of shadows across the walls, and the faint echo of footsteps take on an eerie quality, lending the space a palpable sense of presence beyond the living. Visitors often report unexplained sensations while praying or lingering near the altar. Some feel the soft brush of air against their skin, as though an unseen hand has passed by. Others notice objects slightly moved or out of place, though the chapel is carefully maintained and monitored. These subtle incidents, though easily dismissed during the day, take on a more chilling significance when the chapel is quiet and empty. For many, the combination of architectural wonder, religious reverence, and unexplainable activity creates an atmosphere both awe-inspiring and unnerving. Staff and caretakers of Loretto Chapel have long acknowledged the stories of ghostly activity. They speak of the chapel's history as a living institution, one where generations of nuns, priests, and parishioners left their mark. The spirits reported are rarely malevolent. Rather, they appear to linger out of devotion, continuing routines and rituals ingrained over a lifetime. In many accounts, the apparitions seem tied to specific areas: the pews, the altar, and of course, the miraculous staircase locations, where the emotional and spiritual energy of past occupants remains concentrated. For those who experience the chapel after hours, the atmosphere is profoundly different from the daytime pilgrimage. The flickering candlelight, the hushed tones of visitors, and the faint sounds of distant footsteps all contribute to a sense that the past is not entirely gone. The nuns, spirits, the whispers around the staircase, and the inexplicable sensations throughout the chapel remind all who enter that Loretto Chapel is a place where history, devotion, and the supernatural intersect in subtle but undeniable ways. Ultimately, Loretto Chapel is a sanctuary of both faith and mystery. The miraculous staircase continues to awe architects and visitors, while the lingering presence of the chapel's former caretakers adds an intangible layer of wonder and unease. It is a place where the sacred meets the inexplicable, where devotion transcends death, and where the whispers of the past continue to echo softly through the hallowed halls. Those who enter may come seeking beauty or inspiration, but many leave with a sense that the chapel is alive in ways they cannot fully understand. A living testament to faith, history, and lingering spirits. The old Bernalillo County Courthouse in Albuquerque, New Mexico, stands as a silent testament to justice, law, and the passage of time. Built in the early 20th century, the courthouse once thrived as the center of legal proceedings, where trials, sentencing, and the administration of justice took place. Today, the building is abandoned, its windows dark, its hallways echoing with memories of a bygone era, and chilling sounds that hint at lives cut short and the lingering presence of those who never left. Those who explore the old Bernalillo County Courthouse often describe an unsettling atmosphere from the moment they step inside. The air carries a weight, heavy and oppressive, as if the very walls have absorbed the fear, anger, and despair of decades of prisoners, witnesses, and officials. Hallways are dim and narrow, lined with peeling paint and the remnants of old wooden doors that once held cells and courtrooms. Visitors report hearing footsteps where no one walks, the creak of floorboards echoing as if someone is pacing deliberately. Sometimes, the faint metallic rattle of chains resonates through the hallways, a sound that chills even the most skeptical observer. Paranormal investigators and curious visitors alike have reported sightings of shadowy figures moving through the courthouse. These apparitions are often described as indistinct, human-like forms, gliding silently across rooms or disappearing around corners. Some have seen figures standing at the end of corridors, motionless yet unmistakably present, watching the intruders who dare to enter the building. Others claim to have glimpsed prisoners seated on the steps leading to the courtrooms, their heads bowed in despair, only to vanish when approached. The spirits seem tethered to the courthouse, unwilling or unable to leave, bound by the finality of the sentences they once faced within these walls. The old cells, which once held convicts awaiting trial or execution, are particularly active areas of paranormal activity. Guests report sudden drops in temperature, inexplicable cold spots that make their breath visible even in mild weather. Doors to the cells swing open and shut without warning, sometimes accompanied by the sound of clanging iron or muffled voices crying out. Some visitors have reported feeling as if unseen hands are pressing against their shoulders, gently pushing them away or guiding them along the corridor. These sensations are fleeting but intense, leaving a lasting impression of a presence that is both tangible and intangible. These noises are heard most frequently in the dead of night, echoing through the abandoned halls in a pattern that seems deliberate. Visitors have described hearing chains dragged along the floors, clinking as though someone is being moved from cell to cell. The origin of these sounds is impossible to determine, and they often coincide with the visual appearance of dark, shadowy figures near the old cells. Some speculate that these are the spirits of prisoners reliving their final moments, trapped in a cycle of fear and regret that persists long after their deaths. The courtrooms themselves are steeped in a different kind of energy. Many report hearing echoes of trials long past, the sharp gavel strikes, the raised voices of attorneys, and the solemn pronouncements of judges. Others describe whispers and murmurs that seem to come from the corners of the rooms, voices speaking in hurried tones, sometimes pleading, sometimes condemning. Visitors have recounted feeling as if unseen eyes are observing every move, as though the courthouse itself remembers each trial and each soul who passed through its doors. In some cases, recordings taken by investigators have captured low-frequency sounds resembling whispers, footsteps, or the subtle creak of benches moving, sounds that align with eyewitness accounts and reinforce the impression of a haunted, sentient space. Stairwells and corridors are hotspots for unexplained phenomena. Shadows move across walls without source, and some report seeing a figure suddenly vanish at the top or bottom of a staircase. Cold drafts sweep through hallways even when all windows and doors are closed. The building seems to have a life of its own, responding to the presence of intruders and observers in ways that defy physical explanation. Even those who enter out of curiosity often leave with a sense of unease, an impression that the courthouse is alive with the memories, regrets, and unresolved spirits of the past. Many who have spent time in the courthouse speak of a feeling of being followed, not in a threatening way, but as if unseen eyes are tracking their every step. This presence is persistent, often accompanying visitors as they move from room to room, yet disappearing when they stop and turn to confront it. Some describe fleeting glimpses of prisoners in period clothing, their faces pale and hollow, expressions frozen in fear or despair. Others report hearing the faint clatter of metal keys and shackles, as if a warden or guard is making rounds in a building long emptied of life. Despite its abandoned state, the old Bernalillo County Courthouse draws those fascinated by history, law, and the paranormal. The building has storied past, from high-profile trials to the day-to-day struggles of inmates, leaves a palpable imprint on the physical space. Visitors cannot help but feel the weight of the past pressing down, a sense that the events that occurred here were too intense, too laden with emotion, to simply disappear. The courthouse is more than brick and mortar. It is a vessel for memory, trauma, and lingering souls who experienced its walls as both refuge and prison. Some accounts suggest that the spirits are not entirely malevolent. Many report a sense of acknowledgement rather than malice. It is as if the spirits exist in a state of limbo, neither fully at peace nor fully angry, their presence a reflection of unfinished business and unresolved lives. Guests often describe an eerie calm that follows moments of fright, a sense that the courthouse is watching, remembering, and perhaps even protecting the history contained within its walls. The haunting of the old Bernalillo County Courthouse is a testament to the power of history and memory. It demonstrates how places steeped in human experience, especially those associated with life-altering events such as trials, sentencing, and imprisonment, can retain an energy that transcends the physical. The courthouse stands as a monument not only to law and justice, but to the human stories, often tragic, sometimes terrifying, that unfolded within its halls. Visitors leave with tales of rattling chains, fleeting shadows, and the cold, heavy air of an abandoned courthouse that refuses to forget. Some feel the presence of the prisoners who once walked the halls, lingering as echoes of fear, regret, and finality. Others are left with a deeper understanding of the weight of history, and the idea that some places never truly release the spirits that inhabit them. For those who enter the old Bernalillo County Courthouse, the building is not merely an artifact of Albuquerque's past. It is a living, breathing reminder of mortality, justice, and the indelible mark of human experience. Shadowy figures roam its hallways, chains rattle through the empty corridors, and the air carries whispers from a time long gone, a haunting presence that ensures the courthouse's history is never truly silent. The old Bernalillo County Courthouse is a place where the past is palpably alive, where justice, fear, and memory intertwine. leaving an impression that is impossible to forget. The Legal Tender Saloon in Lamy, New Mexico, is a relic of the Old West, a place where history, tragedy, and legend converge. Established in the late 1800s as a watering hole and gathering place for travelers along the nearby railroad, the saloon quickly became a hub of life and chaos. Gunfights, illicit deals, and heartache were commonplace, and countless people passed through its weathered doors over the decades. Today, the building still stands, a mixture of rustic charm and haunting energy, drawing not only history enthusiasts, but also those intrigued by the stories of spirits that linger long after their earthly lives ended. Visitors often describe the atmosphere inside the Legal Tender Saloon as both welcoming and unnerving. The creak of the wooden floorboards, the scent of old whiskey barrels, and the dim glow of antique lamps create an ambience steeped in history. But it is the tales of ghostly patrons that give the place its most chilling allure. Many claim to have seen the ghost of a woman in a Victorian dress, sitting quietly at a corner table. She appears serene, yet melancholic, staring into the distance as if waiting for someone who never arrived. Her image is fleeting. Some visitors see her only out of the corner of their eye, while others report turning to find the table empty, the chair abandoned, and no trace of her presence. The legend of the Victorian woman is as mysterious as it is tragic. Locals say she was once a traveler, or perhaps the wife of a railroad worker, whose life was cut short by a sudden illness or accident. Over time, her spirit allegedly became tethered to the saloon, repeating a pattern of waiting and watching that mirrors her unfinished life. Patrons and staff alike report a strange sensation when near her table, a chill in the air, the faint scent of floral perfume, or the subtle brush of air against their skin. Some even claim to feel the weight of her gaze, an invisible awareness that follows them as they move through the room. Gunfire and heartbreak are woven into the fabric of the Legal Tender Saloon's history. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the saloon was a place where tempers flared, disputes were settled violently, and secrets were buried in whispered conversations over whiskey. These intense moments of fear, anger, and grief may have left a lasting impression on the building itself, contributing to the paranormal phenomena reported by visitors today. Many of the ghost sightings coincide with the areas of the saloon most associated with past violence, near the bar, along the main floor where gunfights occurred, and by the table where the Victorian woman is most often seen. Staff members who work in the saloon regularly recount unexplained occurrences. Glasses slide across the bar without being touched, doors open and close on their own, and chairs are occasionally found out of place despite being carefully arranged. The atmosphere is often heavier in the evenings, particularly when the establishment is quiet and the last patrons have left. Many describe feeling watched, maintaining a presence that is respectful but persistent. Over the years, paranormal investigators have taken a particular interest in the Legal Tender Saloon. They report capturing EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, that include whispers, distant laughter, and the sound of soft footsteps moving across the creaky wooden floors. Cameras occasionally reveal faint orbs of light, misty forms, or shadowy figures lingering near the corners of the room or around the staircase leading to the upper level. While skeptics may dismiss these events as tricks of light or imagination, those who have experienced them firsthand often describe an undeniable sense that the past is very much alive in this historic building. The Victorian woman herself has become a focal point for many of these investigations. Witnesses claim she is not aggressive or threatening, but rather sorrowful, as if tied to the saloon by longing or unfinished business. Some visitors have reported seeing her glance toward the door, as if expecting someone to arrive, then slowly fade into the shadows. Others have felt a presence linger near their own chairs, as if the ghost is silently observing the living while remaining anchored to her own eternal vigil. The saloon's layout seems to play a role in the supernatural experiences. Its dark corners, narrow hallways, and rustic wooden stairs create an environment where shadows naturally play tricks on the eyes. But even those who understand the effects of light and architecture cannot explain why many see distinct figures or experience sensations of touch, cold, or movement in otherwise empty spaces. The consistency of these reports over decades suggests something more than coincidence, hinting at a lingering energy left behind by the countless souls who pass through the legal tender saloon. Visitors often leave with stories that linger in their minds long after they depart. Some recount glimpsing the Victorian woman sitting silently with a drink in front of her, only to find herself gone when they blink. Others describe hearing faint piano music or soft singing, reminiscent of the saloon's earlier days when a small band might play to entertain travelers. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile experiences creates a deeply immersive encounter, one that blurs the line between history and the supernatural. The saloon's connection to the railroad adds another layer to its haunting. As a key stop for travelers, it saw countless arrivals and departures, moments of joy and moments of loss. Many believe that spirits linger here not only because of their deaths, but because of the emotional resonance of those fleeting moments, the reunions that never happened, the letters that were never sent, the farewells that were the final. The Victorian woman, in particular, embodies this sense of waiting, a spectral witness to the passage of time and the impermanence of life in a frontier town. Even today, the legal tender saloon continues to be a gathering place, bridging past and present. Patrons may sit down for a drink, unaware of the history vibrating in the walls, or they may feel a chill, sense a gaze, or catch a fleeting glimpse of the woman in white. These encounters are rarely threatening. Instead, they leave visitors with a profound sense of connection to the past. The saloon is not only a place of history and architecture, but a repository of memory, emotion, and lingering souls who remain tethered to the world they once knew. The story of the legal tender saloon is one of life, death, and the moments that echo long after. It is a place where the Old West survives in both tangible and spectral form, where patrons can experience the thrill and danger of a bygone era, and where the ghostly presence of a Victorian woman continues to captivate and haunt. For those who walk through its doors, the saloon offers more than drinks and history. It offers a chance to encounter the unseen, to feel the weight of past lives, and to glimpse the enduring spirit of the Old West preserved in one corner of New Mexico. The Cimarron Theater in Albuquerque, New Mexico, is a striking example of Pueblo Deco architecture, a unique blend of Native American motifs and the sleek lines of the Art Deco movement. Built in 1927, the theater quickly became a cultural hub for the city, hosting films, live performances, and community events. Its colorful facade, adorned with intricate geometric patterns and stylized motifs inspired by local indigenous art, attracts visitors and historians alike. Yet beneath the vibrant design and the echoes of applause lies a darker story, one that continues to haunt the theater long after its opening night. The legend of the Cimarron Theater revolves around a tragic event in 1951. During a performance, a young boy named Bobby, believed to be no older than 10, met an untimely death. Accounts vary as to the circumstances, but the story persists that Bobby was either struck by a falling piece of scenery or suffered a sudden, mysterious medical emergency during the show. His passing left a profound mark on the theater, and many claim that his spirit has lingered ever since, tied to the stage and the auditorium where he last witnessed the world. Actors and staff have reported an array of strange occurrences over the decades. One of the most frequently cited phenomena involves equipment malfunctions. Microphones that have been tested and working moments before suddenly fail. Lighting rigs flicker inexplicably, and props move without human intervention. Technicians report checking circuits and systems repeatedly, only to find no logical explanation. Some performers describe moments when the spotlight seems to shift subtly on its own, following a performer or highlighting an empty corner of the stage, as if drawing attention to an unseen presence. The feeling of being watched is a constant theme in Cimarron Theater accounts. Staff, actors, and even audience members have sensed an unseen gaze, a subtle pressure that seems to follow them from the stage to the wings and into the dressing rooms. Many note that the sensation intensifies when preparations for performances are underway, particularly if Bobby's favorite treats or a small offering of candy left as a gesture of remembrance, are absent. Tradition has grown among the theater's employees. Leaving candy for Bobby is said to keep him content, ensuring that he does not interfere with the show or the equipment. Paranormal investigators visiting the Kimo Theater have documented unusual activity that aligns with these stories. Electronic voice phenomena, AVP recordings often capture faint giggling or whispered phrases, sometimes calling out a name or repeating a line from a children's rhyme. Cameras have recorded small, shadowy figures darting across the stage or peeking from behind curtains, though the resolution is rarely clear enough to identify them. Temperature fluctuations are common, with sudden cold spots appearing in the middle of warm rooms or along the wings of the stage, heightening the sense of presence. Staff members frequently share stories of encounters with Bobby's spirit. One stagehand recounted seeing a small figure standing at the edge of the stage during a rehearsal, motionless and silent, only to vanish when approached. Actors often describe props moving unexpectedly during scenes, or hearing the soft patter of tiny footsteps across the wooden floorboards long after rehearsals have ended. Some have claimed to hear Bobby laughing, a gentle, playful sound that contrasts sharply with the somber history behind it, suggesting a mischievous spirit rather than a malevolent one. The architecture of the Kimo Theater itself seems to amplify these experiences, and hidden alcoves create natural acoustics that can distort sound, making whispers and footsteps carry unnaturally. Combined with the dramatic lighting of a theater setting, these features can make ordinary creaks and groans appear otherworldly. Yet the consistency of reports, particularly regarding specific phenomena like the need to leave candy, suggests that the legend of Bobby may be more than mere coincidence. Several performers have described a profound sense of connection with the past while on stage. Some claim that Bobby's presence is not meant to frighten, but to remind the living of the fragile boundary between life and death, and of the energy left behind in places of joy and creativity. Actors often speak of moments when an unseen hand seems to guide a movement or cue a line, or when a sudden feeling of calm washes over the stage just before a performance begins. In this way, Bobby's spirit is seen as both observer and guardian, maintaining a link between the theater's storied past and its present. Visitors attending public events at the Kimo Theater sometimes notice the inexplicable as well. Audience members have reported seeing small figures moving at the edges of the stage, hearing whispers from empty corners, or catching fleeting glimpses of a boy in the reflection of stage lights or shiny surfaces. While some dismiss these experiences as tricks of the eye or imagination, the sheer number of consistent accounts has lent credibility to the legend over the years. Local historians and guides often incorporate these stories into tours, highlighting the unique combination of architecture, history, and the supernatural that makes the Kimo Theater distinctive. The tragic yet enduring presence of Bobby has shaped the theater's culture. Staff members respect the space, adhering to unwritten rules such as leaving small offerings or acknowledging the boy during performances. Many believe that honoring Bobby helps preserve both the history of the theater and the positive energy of the performances staged within it. This relationship between the living and the spirit world has become an integral part of the Kimo experience, a reminder that the echoes of the past are never truly silent. Ultimately, the Kimo Theater stands as a testament to the intersection of history, tragedy, and lingering presence. Its vibrant Art Deco design and cultural significance draw crowds from around the world. But it is the stories of Bobby and the supernatural phenomena that give the space its enduring mystique. The lights may flicker, props may move, and whispers may echo through the empty corridors. But these experiences are as much a part of the theater's identity as its performances and architecture. For those who work, perform, or visit, the Kimo Theater is not just a building. It is a living, breathing space where the past and present coexist, and where the spirit of a young boy continues to leave an indelible mark on all who enter. Dawson Cemetery in New Mexico is a silent testament to a town forever scarred by tragedy. Once a bustling coal mining community, Dawson thrived in the early 20th century, its streets filled with the chatter of miners, families, and merchants. Life was harsh but full of routine and camaraderie, bound together by the labor that sustained the town. That sense of daily rhythm came to an abrupt, devastating end when two catastrophic mining explosions rocked the community within a few years, claiming hundreds of lives and leaving a permanent mark on the landscape and the people who survived. The cemetery itself stands as a solemn reminder of those lost, each marking a life extinguished too soon. One is struck by the uniformity and starkness of the graves, a visual echo of the collective tragedy that befell the town. Visitors often remark on the uncanny feeling of being watched or accompanied, even when the cemetery is entirely empty, charged with the sorrow and loss of a generation that vanished beneath the earth. Many who visit Dawson Cemetery at night report hearing sounds that seem to rise from the graves themselves. The faint echo of pickaxes striking rock, the rhythmic clinking of tools, and the distant, murmured voices of miners are often described as impossible to locate. It is as if the miners themselves continue to labor, trapped in a cycle of work and duty even in death. Some claim to hear cries of warning, shouts carried on the cold night air, or the sound of hurried footsteps crossing the barren grounds. The combination of silence and sporadic sound creates a hauntingly tangible sense of presence. Shadowy figures are occasionally glimpsed among the rows of graves. Witnesses describe the forms of men moving with the deliberate, weary gait of miners, their faces obscured by the darkness. Some seem to vanish when approached. Others appear momentarily at the edges of one's vision, disappearing when looked at directly. These sightings are rarely aggressive. They convey instead a solemn persistence, a sense that the souls buried here are bound to the land and the memories of the work that defined their lives. The natural environment of Dawson Cemetery adds to its eerie ambience. The wind whistling across the gravestones can sound like voices carrying across the hills, and the creaking of old trees often resembles the groan of miners' equipment under strain. At night, the moon casts elongated shadows across the graves, creating shapes that seem to move of their own accord. Even in the coldest silence, there is a sense that the cemetery is alive with echoes of the past, a place where the boundary between the living and the dead is thin and permeable. Local lore enhances the cemetery's reputation. Families of miners long gone recount stories passed down through generations, tales of hearing the sounds of mining from the hills at night, or glimpsing ghostly figures near their ancestors' graves. Some claim to have felt sudden chills or a pressing weight on their shoulders while walking among the crosses, sensations that vanish when attention is drawn elsewhere. Investigators of the paranormal, who have visited Dawson Cemetery, often record unexplained sounds or shadows, further fueling the belief that the miners' spirits remain present, bound by unfinished work or unresolved tragedy. Despite the haunting, Dawson Cemetery also exudes a strange reverence. Visitors report feeling an odd mix of sorrow and awe, as if standing in the presence of history itself. The silence is not always oppressive. It is punctuated by moments that remind one of the lives lived, the struggles endured, and the communal bonds that once held the town together. The cemetery's atmosphere suggests not only loss, but also the enduring imprint of human resilience. Even in the face of sudden and violent death, the echoes of Dawson extend beyond the cemetery grounds. Nearby ruins of homes, old mining equipment, and abandoned streets reinforce the sense that the town itself never fully left. In the quiet hours, one can almost imagine the sounds of daily life mingling with the cries of miners, a layered tapestry of the past woven into the present. The cemetery serves as a focal point for this spectral narrative, a place where memory and the supernatural converge, and where visitors are confronted with the fragile and enduring nature of human life. Hotel Park Central in Albuquerque is a building steeped in decades of history, where the past seems never far from the present. Before it became a modern boutique hotel, this structure served as a hospital for railroad workers and, later, as a psychiatric facility. Over the years, it witnessed countless moments of pain, healing, and tragedy, leaving an imprint on the very walls of the building. Today, guests who walk its hallways claim that these imprints have not faded, giving rise to reports of ghostly activity that range from subtle sensations to striking apparitions. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves the appearance of spectral nurses. Dressed in vintage uniforms reminiscent of the early 20th century, these figures are often seen gliding silently down the hallways, sometimes pausing near old patient rooms before vanishing without a trace. Guests have described feeling a presence at their side or hearing the faint swish of it against the floor, even when the halls are empty. Staff working late at night often report the same experiences, noting that the apparitions seem purposeful, as if they are tending to duties ingrained into their spirits long ago. Phantom footsteps are another common occurrence. Visitors have recounted hearing the rhythmic tapping of boots or shoes on wooden floors, following them along hallways, or pacing rooms where no one else is present. Some say the footsteps appear to circle around them, fading abruptly when they try to confront the source. Housekeepers and night security staff have reported similar experiences, describing footsteps that continue across entire corridors, only to disappear in mid-step, leaving a chilling silence in their wake. Sudden bursts of cold air also define the hotel's eerie reputation. Guests often feel inexplicable chills as they move through certain corridors or enter specific rooms. Even in the height of summer, temperatures in these areas drop sharply, creating an unsettling contrast with the otherwise comfortable environment. Some have noticed the cold accompanied by a subtle pressure, as if someone or something is nearby, observing them. These cold spots are particularly common in the older wings of the building, where the hospital's original architecture is still evident, from high ceilings to narrow hallways and heavy wooden doors. Electrical disturbances add another layer to the hotel's paranormal activity. Lights flicker inexplicably, computers and devices malfunction, and occasionally doors open or close on their own. While modern systems may occasionally fail for mundane reasons, the frequency and context of these events, often coinciding with sightings of shadowy figures or unexplained noises, suggests something more. Paranormal investigators visiting the hotel have recorded fluctuating electromagnetic readings and faint sounds on audio devices that cannot be easily explained. Adding to the building's mystique, guests frequently describe a mixture of awe and unease. Unlike aggressive hauntings, the spirits at Hotel Park Central appear more curious or purposeful than threatening. Many encounters leave an impression of observing, as if the spirits are replaying routines from their previous lives. Some visitors have felt a gentle touch on their shoulder, only to find the room empty. Others see fleeting shadows moving at the periphery of vision, disappearing when they attempt to focus. These subtle interactions create a palpable atmosphere, a sense that the building is alive with memories. The building's design enhances these eerie experiences. Long hallways, echoing stairwells, and polished floors create environments where sounds carry unnaturally, amplifying the impression of footsteps and movement. Reflective surfaces, mirrors, and windows sometimes reveal shapes or figures that are absent when examined directly. High ceilings and ornate architectural details create pockets of shadow that seem almost alive, turning ordinary features into potential conduits for paranormal activity. Over time, staff and visitors have come to accept the haunting as part of the hotel's character. The presence of ghostly nurses, the sudden chills, and the phantom footsteps have become integral to the experience of staying at Hotel Park Central. Guests often speak of the encounters as moving or haunting rather than frightening, noting the historical weight of the building and the human stories embedded in its walls. These subtle interactions remind visitors that the hotel's past, from the hospital wards to the psychiatric facility, continues to resonate in the present. Ultimately, Hotel Park Central is a place where history and the supernatural intertwine. The echoes of patients, the disciplined presence of spectral nurses, and the cold drafts that pass through empty corridors all contribute to a hauntingly immersive experience. For those willing to explore its hallways after hours, the hotel offers a glimpse into a past shaped by care, suffering, and human resilience, where spirits of the bygone eras remain tethered quietly observing the living as they walk through the spaces once occupied by those who came before. Santa Fe Plaza, at the heart of New Mexico's capital, is a place where centuries of history converge in a single open square. Established long before the city itself grew into its present form, the plaza has been witness to countless events. From bustling markets and festive celebrations to military parades and the darker chapters of war and execution, its stone pathways and surrounding adobe buildings carry the weight of human experience. And for those who visit after dark, there is a sense that the plaza is alive in ways that go beyond the ordinary. By day, Santa Fe Plaza is a vibrant hub. Tourists wander past the historic buildings, artisans display their crafts, and musicians fill the air with melodies that echo across the open space. Vendors call out from stalls, offering everything from jewelry to local cuisine, and families gather to enjoy the sunlit square. Yet, after night falls, the plaza takes on a different character. Shadows stretch across the pathways, and a quiet stillness settles over the historic heart of the city. It is during these hours that reports of spectral activity become most pronounced, hinting at a past that refuses to remain buried. Among the most commonly reported phenomena are sightings of ghostly soldiers. Witnesses describe figures in uniforms from various periods of New Mexico's turbulent history. Marching in formation across the plaza's open spaces, the apparitions are often described as precise, almost mechanical in their movements, as if fulfilling a duty that was interrupted in life. Some observers report hearing the faint clatter of boots on stone, the distant echo of commands, and the subtle swish of flags in the night air. Those who glimpse these figures say they vanish as quickly as they appear, leaving only the lingering sound of footsteps fading into the quiet plaza. The plaza has also been a site of executions and violent confrontations, events that seem to have left a lasting imprint on the space. Visitors walking alone at night sometimes report sudden drops in temperature or the sensation of being watched. Soft murmurs, the occasional distant shout, or the feeling of a presence brushing past can unsettle even the most skeptical. Some claim to see shadowy figures lingering near the old government buildings, their forms indistinct but their intentions unmistakably tied to the historical weight of the plaza. Local lore suggests that these apparitions are more than simple echoes of history. They are manifestations of unfinished business, remnants of lives interrupted by duty, conflict, or sudden death. The spectral soldiers, in particular, are often interpreted as spirits bound to the plaza, eternally reenacting the routines and marches of their final hours. Similarly, other figures seen in the square, whether civilians or traders, may represent souls still attached to the rhythms of everyday life that once defined Santa Fe Plaza. The architecture surrounding the plaza contributes to its eerie atmosphere. Adobe buildings with thick walls, narrow archways, and shadowed alcoves create pockets where light and sound behave unpredictably. Even in the modern era, the square retains elements of its colonial past. From the stone pathways worn smooth by centuries of foot traffic to the open courtyards where history unfolded, at night, these features amplify every movement and sound. Footsteps echo unnaturally, shadows shift with subtle intention, and corners of vision seem to conceal fleeting figures that vanish when directly observed. Tourists and locals alike have shared experiences of ghostly activity that blend subtlety with an unmistakable presence. Some describe hearing faint music, as though from a long-past festival, drifting across the plaza with no visible source. Others report catching glimpses of individuals in period clothing, standing silently in the moonlight before dissolving into darkness. These occurrences are rarely threatening, yet they leave a powerful impression, a reminder that the plaza is a space where the past refuses to stay quiet. Historical events have only reinforced the plaza's reputation as a haunted space. It has been the site of military occupations, public punishments, and intense social gatherings, each leaving traces that seem to linger in the stone and adobe. During the Mexican-American War and periods of territorial unrest, soldiers marched and prepared for battle across these grounds, some never to return home. Today, their spectral counterparts appear at night, moving in formation, a silent homage to the lives they led and the duty they could not abandon. The Plaza's role as a cultural and civic center also attracts spirits tied to celebration and commerce. Some visitors report faint echoes of market chatter or the laughter of children playing, moments suspended from centuries past, even as the modern city thrives around it. Santa Fe Plaza preserves fragments of its historical self, allowing glimpses of another era to emerge for those patient enough to notice. These experiences suggest that the plaza is not merely haunted by tragedy, but animated by the full spectrum of human activity that has unfolded there. For those who walk the plaza after dark, Santa Fe Plaza offers a rare and haunting window into the past. The faint sound of marching boots, the shadowy figures of soldiers, and the subtle impressions of daily life create an atmosphere where history and the supernatural coexist. Each echo, each fleeting figure, serves as a reminder that the square has borne witness to centuries of human experience, both joyous and tragic, and that the spirits of those who once called this space home continue to linger. The Dona Ana County Courthouse in Las Cruces is not just a center for legal proceedings. It is a building steeped in history, emotion, and the lingering echoes of human tragedy. For over a century, this courthouse has been the site of countless trials, legal battles, and moments of high tension. Yet, beyond its official function, many believe the building harbors something far more elusive: the restless presence of spirits bound to the site by unresolved grievances and injustice. Reports of paranormal activity in the courthouse span decades, with staff, visitors, and security personnel describing unusual experiences that cannot be explained by ordinary means. One of the most frequently reported phenomena is the sound of disembodied voices. These voices often emerge in empty hallways or deserted courtrooms, murmuring phrases that seem tied to past trials. Some claim to hear whispered protests, cries for help, or fragments of conversations, as if the echoes of wronged defendants continue to replay moments of injustice long after they have passed. Objects moving on their own is another hallmark of the courthouse's haunting. Doors have been known to swing open or shut without warning. Lights flicker in rooms that are otherwise empty, and papers sometimes shift across desks as if guided by unseen hands. Security staff and maintenance workers recount instances where chairs have been found slightly moved, filing cabinets left ajar, or books displaced from shelves with no apparent cause. These subtle but undeniable movements create a sense of presence, as though the spirits of the past are still walking the hallways, seeking recognition for the wrongs they endured. Shadowy figures are also frequently observed. Guests or staff working late have reported glimpsing dark silhouettes moving in corners of their vision, vanishing when approached. Some witnesses describe seeing full-bodied apparitions, often dressed in period clothing, pacing corridors, or standing silently at the end of a hallway. These figures are sometimes interpreted as the spirits of individuals who were wrongfully convicted or otherwise suffered within the courthouse walls, eternally replaying their final moments or searching for the justice that eluded them in life. Temperature fluctuations and cold spots further enhance the courthouse's eerie atmosphere. Even on warm days, sudden drops in temperature can occur in specific areas, particularly near old courtrooms or offices associated with historic trials. Visitors and staff often report a distinct chill accompanying these moments, sometimes paired with a sensation of being watched or followed. The combination of cold drafts, unexplained sounds, and visual anomalies creates an environment in which the past feels tangibly present, a place where history has left an indelible mark on both the building and those who enter it. Paranormal investigators who have explored the Dona Ana County Courthouse note that the occurrences are not isolated. Audio recordings occasionally capture faint voices or murmurs, while infrared cameras reveal shadowy movements in hallways that are otherwise unoccupied. Electromagnetic readings fluctuate inexplicably in several areas, and staff report electrical disturbances, including lights flickering or devices turning on and off without explanation. Though these phenomena may have mundane explanations in some cases, Their consistency and context suggest a strong supernatural component tied to the courthouse's historical weight. Many who experience these events describe a mixture of awe, unease, and empathy. Unlike aggressive hauntings, the spirits in the courthouse are often perceived as sorrowful or unresolved rather than threatening. Their presence seems tied to the emotional intensity of the trials and injustices that occurred within the building. Staff often recount feeling a lingering weight, as if the walls themselves carry the memories of those who suffered, and visitors report an almost palpable sense of history pressing down in quiet moments. The architecture of the courthouse itself seems to amplify the haunting. Long hallways, echoing stairwells, and high ceilings create spaces where sound travels unpredictably, turning ordinary noises into eerie echoes. Shadowed alcoves and heavy wooden doors provide places for apparitions to appear suddenly and vanish just as quickly. These architectural features, combined with the building's history of legal conflict and emotional intensity, create the perfect environment for lingering spirits to manifest. Ultimately, the Dona Ana County Courthouse is more than a place of lot, is a living repository of memory, emotion, and unresolved human experience. The disembodied voices, moving objects, sudden cold drafts, and shadowy figures all serve as reminders that the past is never truly gone. For those who spend time in its hallways after hours, the courthouse offers a haunting glimpse into the stories of those who were wronged, a chance to feel the weight of injustice that continues to echo through time. The Double Eagle restaurant in Mesilla is widely celebrated for its fine dining and historic charm. But beneath its elegant atmosphere lies a story tinged with tragedy and lingering unrest. While the restaurant attracts visitors with its exquisite cuisine and inviting ambience, it is also known as a place where the past refuses to remain silent. Tales of paranormal activity have circulated for decades, centered on a tragic love story that ended in murder, leaving behind spirits that continue to inhabit the dining room. According to local legend, the haunting at the Double Eagle originates with Armando and Inez, a young couple whose love was intense yet forbidden. Inez's mother disapproved of the relationship, perceiving Armando as unworthy of her daughter's affection. In a violent act of control and rage, she ended the couple's lives within the very walls that now house the restaurant. The tragedy left an indelible mark on the building, and some believe that Armando and Inez's spirits have never truly departed, bound to the site of their untimely deaths. Diners and staff have reported a variety of unsettling experiences that hint at the presence of these lingering souls. Many describe sudden drops in temperature around certain tables, as if a cold breeze passes through, chilling patrons even in the warmth of the bustling dining room. Waitstaff often recount the sensation of being watched, or glimpsing fleeting shadows out of the corner of their eyes, or seeing a chair move slightly without explanation, as though the spirits are making their presence known in subtle but unmistakable ways. One of the most common phenomena involves a sense of energy at particular tables, often those closest to the windows or near the fireplace. Guests sitting in these areas have reported a sudden heaviness in the air, as if unseen presences are leaning over them, observing silently. Others have claimed to hear soft whispers, murmured words that vanish when one tries to locate the source. While no one has been harmed, these experiences are often enough to make diners pause, sensing that something or someone remains close, watching, and perhaps longing for the life that was stolen from them. Staff members, who spend far more time in the building than casual visitors, have shared numerous accounts of paranormal activity. Servers and hosts describe seeing two figures appear briefly in the dining room during quiet hours, Armando and Inez, dressed in the attire of their era, standing close together before vanishing as if dissolving into the walls. Some employees have recounted hearing the soft sound of laughter or low conversation in empty corners, echoing as though the couple continues their interrupted evening, repeating moments lost to tragedy. The restaurant's architecture seems to amplify these experiences. Wooden beams, high ceilings, and ornate fixtures create an environment where sounds carry unpredictably and shadows shift with unusual life. The soft lighting, Warm and intimate spaces provide the perfect backdrop for subtle movements and ghostly whispers to be perceived as more than just tricks of the eye or ear. In these conditions, even the faintest shift of shadow crossing the room, a light flicker, a distant murmur feels charged with meaning, hinting at the presence of those who cannot let go. Some visitors have reported seeing fleeting reflections in mirrors and windows, shapes that do not correspond to any living person in the room. Others feel a presence behind them when they are alone, only to turn and find the space empty. While these encounters are often brief and fleeting, they leave a lasting impression, reinforcing the belief that the restaurant is a locus for the restless spirits of Armando and Inez. Interestingly, many of the reported experiences are gentle rather than threatening. Guests rarely feel fear in the traditional sense. Instead, they describe a poignant awareness, a sense of witnessing a love story interrupted, lingering in the air like a memory refusing to fade. The spirits seem tied not only to the site of their death, but also to the moments of connection they shared, moments of intimacy and devotion that were cut short. In this way, the haunting is more melancholy than malevolent, a reminder of passion, loss, and unresolved emotion. Over the years, paranormal investigators and curious visitors alike have sought to capture evidence of the Double Eagle's ghostly inhabitants. Infrared cameras, audio recorders, and electromagnetic sensors have occasionally recorded anomalies, shadows where no one stands, faint whispers, and temperature fluctuations that cannot be explained by natural causes. While the evidence remains subtle and inconclusive, it is enough to affirm that something lingers, shaping the atmosphere and the experiences of those who enter. For those who dine at the Double Eagle restaurant, the knowledge of the haunting adds a layer of depth to the experience. As the aroma of fine cuisine fills the room and the murmur of conversation rises, one cannot help but feel the presence of the young couple who once lived, loved, and died within these walls. Armando and Inez, bound together in life and death, continue to haunt the restaurant in a way that is subtle, affecting, and profoundly human. La Posada de Santa Fe, now a luxurious resort known for its elegant rooms and serene courtyards, carries a history that stretches far beyond its modern amenities. Julia's life, however, was shadowed by tragedy. After the heartbreaking loss of her child, she fell into deep depression, spending her days wandering the halls of her home in mourning. Over time, the sorrow and despair she carried seemed to seep into the very walls, leaving an indelible mark on the property that persists to this day. Guests and staff alike have reported unusual occurrences throughout the resort, many of which appear tied to Julia Staub's lingering presence. One of the most commonly cited phenomena is the sudden scent of perfume in areas where no one is present. Visitors describe delicate, floral or musky fragrances appearing in hallways, lobbies, and guest rooms, often coinciding with other strange experiences. These fleeting scents evoke a sense of intimacy and sadness, as though the woman who once inhabited the space is still subtly asserting her presence. Cold drafts are another frequent report, particularly in the hallways near the resort's older wings. Guests often speak of walking down a corridor and suddenly feeling a chill that seems to have no source. Even on warm days, these cold spots can appear without warning, lingering just long enough to provoke a sense of unease. Staff members who spend late hours on the property often notice these temperature drops more acutely, describing them as a gentle but persistent reminder that the building is not entirely empty. Visual sightings of Julia Staub's spirit are among the most striking experiences reported at La Posada. Guests describe seeing a woman in Victorian-era clothing, sometimes standing silently at the end of a hallway or gliding past a doorway. Her appearance is often described as sorrowful, with a melancholy aura that conveys the depth of her grief. In some cases, she has been seen sitting in lounge areas or near windows, gazing out as if waiting for something or someone that will never return. Those who have encountered her often report a sense of profound sadness, tempered with a feeling of gentle watchfulness. The resort's architecture and design seem to enhance these supernatural impressions. High ceilings, long hallways, and intricately carved woodwork create spaces where sounds carry and shadows shift in unusual ways. Mirrors, windows, and reflective surfaces sometimes appear to reveal fleeting images or shapes that vanish when observed directly. The combination of elegant design and the building's historical ambience creates an environment in which ordinary sights and sounds can take on an eerie significance. Many of the experiences reported at La Posada are subtle rather than aggressive, leaving visitors with a lingering sense of presence rather than fear. Guests often describe feeling watched or sensing that someone is walking alongside them even when no one else is visible. Others have noticed objects slightly displaced, a chair angled differently, a book shifted on a table, or the faint impression of movement near a hallway corner. These small details contribute to a pervasive sense that the past is never entirely gone. Staff members who have worked at the resort for extended periods offer some of the most consistent accounts of paranormal activity. Housekeepers and maintenance personnel frequently report unexplained noises, from soft footsteps in empty hallways to the creak of doors opening and closing on their own. Some have heard low, indistinct murmurs, as if Julia Staub is speaking in whispered tones, mourning, or perhaps communicating a lingering sense of longing. While these occurrences rarely disrupt daily operations, they contribute to the overall mystique of La Posada and its haunted reputation. The story of Julia Staub adds a poignant dimension to the resort's allure. Unlike hauntings characterized by anger or malevolence, her presence conveys sadness, reflection, and the unending weight of loss. Guests who encounter the subtle signs of her spirit often describe an emotional impact, an awareness that life, love, and sorrow continue to echo long after their mortal forms have passed. This intersection of history, tragedy, and elegance gives La Posada a unique atmosphere where luxury and the supernatural coexist. Ultimately, La Posada de Santa Fe is more than a resort. It is a living monument to memory, grief, and the persistence of human emotion. The perfume drifting through hallways, the cold drafts that brush past guests, and the vision of a woman in Victorian attire all serve as reminders that the past is never truly gone. Julia Staub's presence lingers, watching over the halls and courtyards of her former home, a silent witness to the lives and stories that continue within the walls she once walked. For visitors, the experience is both haunting and moving, a rare opportunity to sense the intangible and to feel the weight of history in a space that seamlessly blends comfort, beauty, and the spectral traces of a life marked by love and loss. Fort Union, located near Watrous, New Mexico, stands as a silent witness to the turbulent history of the American frontier. Established in the mid-1800s, this military fort was a strategic outpost along the Santa Fe Trail, serving both as a hub for trade and a stronghold against conflicts that arose during the westward expansion. The fort saw countless soldiers pass through its gates, enduring harsh winters, scarce resources, and the constant threat of attack. And it was also a place where lives were lost, whether in battle, from disease, or from the hardships of frontier life. Today, Fort Union is largely in ruins, yet many believe the echoes of its past remain, lingering in the air, whispering of lives once lived and struggles once endured. Visitors to the site often report experiences that suggest the fort is more than just a historical landmark. One of the most frequently described phenomena involves apparitions of soldiers, dressed in the uniforms of the 1800s, moving purposefully through the grounds. Some eyewitnesses have claimed to see them patrolling the perimeter, rifles in hand, their expressions stern yet determined. Others report glimpsing groups of men gathered near the remains of barracks, as if continuing their daily routines despite the passage of time. These figures are sometimes seen in fleeting glimpses, disappearing behind stone foundations or vanishing into thin air, leaving viewers with a haunting sense that the past is never truly gone. The fort's atmosphere also seems to preserve the sounds of its former life. Guests frequently describe hearing the unmistakable clatter of marching boots across the open parade grounds, echoing in the quiet of the present day. Some say they can hear the low murmur of soldiers talking or giving orders, even when no one else is nearby. On certain evenings, distant sounds resembling campfires crackling coupled with the clink of utensils or the hum of men tending horses, create a vivid impression of a fort still bustling with activity, despite the emptiness of the ruins. Many visitors have also noted the sensation of movement just beyond their line of sight. Shadows flit across doorways, figures appear at the edges of ruins, or fleeting glimpses of horses can be seen standing among the old walls. A few have claimed to feel the pressure of invisible eyes upon them, or even the brush of an unseen hand, as though the spirits of the soldiers remain attentive, guarding the ground they once called home. These subtle interactions reinforce the idea that Fort Union is not merely a collection of stone and timber, but a living memory of those who served and died there. Some experiences are tied to specific locations within the fort. The remains of the officers' quarters, for example, are often reported as particularly active. Guests have described seeing figures pacing inside these crumbling walls, or lights flickering as if lanterns were being carried. The old parade grounds and stables are also hotspots for sightings, with multiple reports of shadowy horses and riders appearing suddenly before fading into the night. Witnesses often note a distinct feeling of presence, as though the fort's original inhabitants are reliving their routines, frozen in a spectral loop of duty and vigilance. The fort's history of conflict and tragedy seems to fuel the haunting. Fort Union was not only a site of military operations, but also a place where soldiers endured extreme hardship. Disease, injury, and harsh environmental conditions claimed many lives, leaving behind intense emotional energy. Paranormal investigators suggest that this concentrated trauma may be why the site exhibits persistent supernatural activity, from apparitions and sounds to cold spots and inexplicable sensations of being watched. Each reported encounter seems tied to the daily life of soldiers, the routines, the camaraderie, and the struggles they faced while stationed at this remote outpost. Visitors often describe a mixture of awe and unease while exploring Fort Union. The ruins themselves are evocative, with stone foundations and timber remnants forming a backdrop that amplifies the impact of any unusual phenomenon. Standing on the parade grounds, one can almost sense the echo of disciplined steps and the presence of men long gone. The combination of historical significance and paranormal activity makes Fort Union a compelling location for those interested in the stories of the past, both human and spectral. Even today, the fort retains a haunting beauty. The wind whistles through the ruins, carrying with it faint echoes of past lives. Shadows stretch long in the fading light, and the occasional flicker of movement can make the imagination conjure scenes of soldiers preparing for duty, tending fires, or riding across the open plains. For many, the fort becomes a bridge between eras, a place where history is not confined to books or plaques, but felt directly, palpably, as if the soldiers themselves are still on patrol, still watching, and still present. Ultimately, Fort Union is a place where the past and present converge, a site where history leaves its mark not only in stone and earth, but also in lingering spirits. The apparitions of soldiers, the sounds of marching boots, the flickering campfires, and the cold drafts all serve as reminders that life, duty, and sacrifice leave traces that endure. Visitors leave with more than memories of ruins. They carry an impression of a fort still alive with the energy of those who once called it home. White Sands National Park, with its rolling fields of gleaming gypsum dunes, is celebrated for its breathtaking beauty and unique landscapes, stretching across hundreds of square miles in southern New Mexico. The park offers visitors a serene and otherworldly environment, where the white sands glint under the sun and the horizon seems endless. Yet, beneath the tranquility lies a layer of legend and the unexplained, where ghostly phenomena have long captured the imagination of locals and travelers alike. Tales of spirits, strange lights, and eerie voices mingle with the park's natural splendor, creating an atmosphere that is both haunting and mesmerizing. One of the most enduring legends associated with White Sands is that of La Llorona, the weeping woman of folklore who is said to roam the dunes, mourning the children she lost. According to the stories, her cries carry across the open landscape, blending with the whistle of the wind. Visitors have reported hearing the faint sound of a woman wailing, calling out names that vanish as quickly as they are spoken. The haunting is often described as a sorrowful presence rather than an aggressive one, a spirit bound by grief and remorse, endlessly searching for what was lost. On moonlit nights, some claim to glimpse a shadowy figure drifting along the crest of a dune, its form fleeting yet unmistakably human, disappearing when approached. The vastness and isolation of White Sands only serve to amplify these supernatural impressions. The dunes stretch for miles, creating natural corridors where sound and movement can take on a spectral quality. Footsteps, whether real or imagined, seem to echo endlessly, and the wind carries voices in ways that defy explanation. Some visitors have described hearing conversations or murmurs, faint at first, growing clearer for a moment before vanishing entirely. Others report feeling a sudden sense of being watched, or the subtle pressure of a presence at their side, even when no one else is near. Strange lights are another phenomenon frequently reported at White Sands. Many accounts describe small orbs of light hovering above the dunes, sometimes moving erratically or disappearing into the sky without warning. Witnesses often note that these lights appear at night, glowing softly against the darkness, and seem to follow no natural pattern. Some speculate that these orbs are connected to spirits, while others believe they may be unexplained atmospheric phenomena. Whatever their origin, these lights add an additional layer of mystery, captivating observers and reinforcing the idea that White Sands is a place where the boundaries between the natural and supernatural blur. Beyond the wailing of La Llorona and the mysterious lights, the park is also known for subtle, unexplained occurrences. Visitors have reported feeling sudden drops in temperature, as if a cold breath passed over them despite the otherwise warm desert air. Others describe hearing footsteps or the rustle of movement in areas where no one else is present. Some even claim to have seen shadowy figures flitting across the dunes at dawn or dusk, disappearing as quickly as they appeared. These experiences, while fleeting, leave a lasting impression, giving the landscape a sense of sentience and memory. The cultural significance of White Sands contributes to its haunting atmosphere. Long before it became a national park, the area was inhabited by indigenous peoples who recognized its spiritual importance. Later, settlers and travelers along trade routes passed through, each leaving stories, memories, and, some believe, lingering energy. This accumulation of human presence over centuries, combined with the park's stark, otherworldly environment, creates conditions ripe for unexplained phenomena and ghostly legends. Visitors who encounter the paranormal often describe a complex emotional response. The park's beauty is awe-inspiring, yet the whispers of spirits and sudden flashes of light instill a sense of vulnerability and wonder. Many report that the experiences are not frightening in the conventional sense, but provoke reflection and a deeper awareness of the land's history. The cries of La Llorona, the footsteps in the sand, and the drifting orbs of light all serve as reminders that the desert holds stories beyond the visible, that life, loss, and memory are embedded in the landscape itself. Even in daylight, the dunes retain a haunting quality. Shadows shift with the sun, creating illusions of movement, and the wind, sculpting the sand, can produce sounds eerily reminiscent of voices or whispers. Visitors often remarked that the park feels alive, not merely in the natural sense, but as a repository of energy and memory, where the past continually interacts with the present. For those attuned to these subtleties, White Sands becomes a place of both beauty and spectral resonance, where the extraordinary seems always within reach. Ultimately, White Sands National Park is a space of contrasts, stunning natural splendor and haunting mystery. Silence and the echoes of the past, light and shadow, the spirit of La Llorona, the ghostly footsteps, and the mysterious lights transform the park into more than a scenic destination. They create an immersive experience where the natural world and the supernatural converge. Those who visit carry with them memories of sweeping white dunes and the haunting sense that the land is alive with whispers from beyond, a reminder that some stories and spirits endure long after their time on earth has ended. Old Mesilla Plaza in Mesilla, New Mexico, is a historic square that carries the echoes of centuries past. Once a bustling hub for trade, civic gatherings, and the administration of justice, the plaza was central to the social and economic life of the town. Merchants displayed their goods, travelers rested their horses, and townsfolk congregated for markets, festivals, and political events. Yet, behind this lively history lies a darker chapter. The plaza was also the site of public hangings, executions, and violent confrontations, leaving a residue of sorrow and unrest that some say still lingers today. Visitors to Old Mesilla Plaza often report experiences that hint at a spectral presence. Ghostly figures are among the most commonly described phenomena. On quiet evenings, when the streets are empty, some have claimed to see translucent forms drifting across the square. These apparitions often resemble townsfolk from centuries past, men and women in period clothing, moving as if caught in mid-task or wandering aimlessly. The figures sometimes vanish into the walls of historic buildings, reappear at the edges of alleyways, or glide silently across the open plaza. Witnesses often report an eerie sense that these figures are aware of their presence, turning or pausing as though acknowledging the living before fading away. Footsteps echoing long after the streets have emptied are another frequently reported occurrence. Tourists and locals alike describe hearing rhythmic steps or the shuffle of shoes across cobblestones, sometimes following them as they walk alone. Some claim to hear multiple footsteps, suggesting the presence of groups that vanished long ago, replaying the patterns of daily life or the fearful steps of condemned prisoners. The sound often seems to carry from multiple directions, making it difficult to pinpoint the source. For those who pause to listen, the echoes evoke a chilling sense of history alive with movement. The plaza's history of public executions contributes significantly to its haunted reputation. Several hangings took place in the center of the square, where citizens once gathered to witness the grim spectacles. Accounts from the time describe solemn crowds, heightened emotions, and the lingering anguish of those condemned to die. Many believe that the intense emotional energy generated by these events remains embedded in the plaza, influencing the strange phenomena experienced by modern visitors. Some have reported sudden chills in areas where hangings occurred, or an overwhelming sense of dread when standing near the center of the square, as though the air itself carries the memory of suffering. Lights and shadows behave unusually at Old Mesilla Plaza, further heightening its spectral reputation. Street lamps flicker without explanation, and shadows cast by architectural features often seem to shift independently of the sun's position. Some visitors report seeing brief flashes of light along building edges or in empty alleyways, interpreted as ghostly manifestations or remnants of the past. These visual anomalies, combined with the plaza's historic ambience, create an atmosphere where the boundary between the living and the departed feels tenuous, leaving many with a lingering sense of wonder and unease. Several witnesses have described encounters with more interactive phenomena. Objects that are stationary one moment may appear slightly displaced the next, as if brushed by invisible hands. Doors in surrounding buildings sometimes creak open or close with no discernible cause, and faint murmurs have been heard drifting through alleyways and empty rooms. These subtle interactions, while rarely threatening, create a palpable sense of presence, reinforcing the idea that the plaza is more than a static historic site. It is a living memory of countless lives and events. The architecture of Old Mesilla Plaza plays a significant role in these experiences. Adobe buildings, narrow walkways, and open courtyards create natural spaces for sound and shadow to behave unpredictably. The design amplifies footsteps, carries whispers over long distances, and casts shadows that can resemble human shapes, making ordinary sensory input appear uncanny. This blend of history and environment makes the plaza uniquely conducive to experiences that visitors describe as haunting or supernatural. For many who spend time in the plaza after hours, the experience is both moving and eerie. The ghostly figures, echoing footsteps, and occasional flickers of light serve as reminders of the square's layered history from its role as a center of commerce and community to its function as a site of punishment and grief. Visitors often describe a profound sense of connection to the past, feeling the presence of those who walked, worked, and even met their end in the same space. Ultimately, Old Mesilla Plaza is a place where the past refuses to remain quiet. Ghostly figures drift through the square. Footsteps echo long after the streets are empty, and the weight of history seems tangible in the air. The plaza offers more than scenic architecture and historic charm. It is a location where human stories of life, labor, joy, and suffering linger in the physical and spiritual landscape. Those who walk its cobblestones after dark leave with an indelible impression that history in Mesilla is alive, and sometimes the departed are not so far away. Fort Bayard, located near Santa Clara, New Mexico, is a place where history and the supernatural intersect, creating an atmosphere steeped in mystery and intrigue. Originally established in the late 19th century as a military fort, it served as a key outpost during the turbulent years of frontier expansion. Soldiers stationed here faced harsh conditions, from extreme weather to the constant threat of conflict, and the fort quickly became a center of military life, discipline, and strategic planning. Later, the fort was transformed into a hospital, primarily treating soldiers afflicted with tuberculosis and mental illnesses, adding a layer of human struggle and tragedy to its long history. Visitors to Fort Bayard often describe experiences that suggest the presence of lingering spirits. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves ghostly nurses, dressed in the white uniforms typical of early 20th century medical staff. These figures are sometimes seen moving silently through corridors and wards, performing duties invisible to the living. Guests have reported glimpses of nurses carrying trays, tending to empty beds, or appearing briefly at the end of hallways before vanishing. Staff and visitors alike often note a sudden drop in temperature accompanying these sightings, as if the very air reacts to the presence of the spectral caregivers. Soldiers in uniform are also commonly reported. Witnesses have described shadowy figures patrolling the grounds, standing at attention, or walking purposefully across the parade areas and courtyard. Some say they have seen groups of soldiers gathering near old barracks, conversing quietly before dissolving into mist. Others recount hearing the sounds of marching boots echoing across the grounds at night, footsteps that seem too precise and rhythmic to be ordinary. These apparitions are frequently described as dignified and somber, a reflection of the disciplined life they once led, bound to the fort by duty even beyond death. Strange lights moving across the grounds add another layer to Fort Bayard's haunting. Visitors report orbs of light floating through the night air, darting between old buildings, or hovering briefly over open fields before vanishing entirely. These lights are often accompanied by a sense of presence, a feeling that the spirits are aware of those who witness them. Some speculate that the orbs are tied to the restless energy of soldiers and patients who lived and died at the fort, while others believe they are manifestations of residual energy, replaying moments of daily life long past. Whatever the origin, these lights enhance the eerie beauty of the site, making night visits particularly memorable. The fort's hospital history contributes significantly to the haunting atmosphere. Soldiers suffering from tuberculosis faced long, painful illnesses, and many never recovered. The mental health wards housed patients grappling with profound psychological distress. Both groups left emotional imprints on the building, and some believe these energies linger to this day. Visitors often describe hearing soft murmurs or cries in empty rooms, footsteps pacing hallways that should be silent, and the occasional fleeting sense of being touched or followed. These subtle manifestations create an impression of a place alive with memory, where suffering and care coexist in spectral form. Architecture and environment play a crucial role in the experiences reported at Fort Bayard. Long corridors, high ceilings, and large, open wards amplify sound, carrying whispers, footsteps, and other noises in ways that make them seem ethereal. Shadowed corners, heavy doors, and remnants of original fort structures provide spaces for apparitions to appear and vanish, enhancing the impression of a haunted, living environment. Even the wind, interacting with the ruins, can produce eerie sounds, carrying voices or the soft hum of activity across empty grounds. For many, visiting Fort Bayard is a mixture of awe, curiosity, and unease. Unlike aggressive hauntings, the spirits here often seem watchful or purposeful rather than malevolent. Some visitors report a sense of comfort, as if the nurses are still tending to the needs of the living, while the soldiers convey a dignified presence, silently reminding observers of duty, sacrifice, and the passage of time. These experiences often leave lasting impressions, combining history, human struggle, and the supernatural into a single, memorable encounter. Even today, the fort exudes a haunting beauty. At twilight, shadows stretch across the old parade grounds, and the flicker of unseen lights creates a sense of movement where none should exist. The combination of ruins, historical architecture, and spectral activity gives Fort Bayard an atmosphere of timelessness, where the past feels vividly present. Visitors walk among its grounds with the knowledge that they share space with those who lived, suffered, and died here, and that the spirits of Fort Bayard continue to linger, watching over the fort they once called home. Ultimately, Fort Bayard is more than a historic site. It is a repository of human experience, memory, and spectral presence. The ghostly nurses, soldiers in uniform, and strange lights moving across the grounds remind visitors that history leaves a lasting imprint for those willing to explore its corridors and open spaces. Fort Bayard offers an encounter with a past that is as haunting as it is unforgettable. A place where the echoes of duty, care, and tragedy continue to resonate through time. The St. James Hotel in Cimarron, New Mexico, stands as a monument to the lawless and tumultuous days of the American West. Built in 1872, this historic establishment has witnessed more than its fair share of bloodshed, intrigue, and raw frontier life. From the moment it opened its doors, the hotel became a hub for travelers, traders, lawmen, and outlaws alike. Over the decades, it earned a reputation not just for its hospitality, but also for the violence that often erupted within its walls. More than 24 people lost their lives here, and bullet holes still scar the ceilings. Silent reminders of gunfights and disputes that erupted in the heat of frontier justice. Visitors today are drawn not only to the hotel's historic charm, but also to its eerie reputation. Many report experiences that suggest the St. James Hotel is far from empty, even in its quietest hours. Full-bodied apparitions have been sighted throughout the building, often appearing suddenly in hallways, guest rooms, or the bar area. Witnesses describe figures dressed in period clothing, some carrying weapons, others moving with purpose, as if reliving moments from over a century ago. These spectral guests often vanish when approached, leaving only the echo of their presence and a lingering chill in the air. Phantom gunfire is another phenomenon frequently reported. Visitors recount hearing the unmistakable sound of shots ringing out, ricocheting off walls, or hitting the ceiling, yet no one is present to explain them. Some claim to hear rapid bursts of firing, as if a saloon shootout has spontaneously replayed. The echoes are often disorienting, carrying through hallways and rooms in a way that makes it difficult to pinpoint their source, combined with the bullet holes still visible above the bar and in guest rooms. These auditory experiences reinforce the sense that history refuses to remain silent at the St. James Hotel. The sensation of unseen hands touching guests is another haunting feature of the hotel. Patrons have reported feeling a tap on the shoulder, a brush across their arm, or a firm grip on their wrist when no one else is present. These touches are often accompanied by a sudden chill or the sense of being watched. Some believe these interactions are the restless spirits of those who died violently within the hotel, forever bound to the space where their lives ended abruptly. Others speculate that the touches serve as warnings or reminders, manifestations of the unsettled energy left behind by centuries of tension and tragedy. Certain rooms are particularly active. Guests staying in historic suites often report waking to find objects moved from their original places, chairs slightly shifted, or doors opening and closing without explanation. Mirrors have been known to fog even on warm, dry nights, and some visitors swear they have glimpsed figures reflected where no one stands. The bar area, long associated with saloon brawls and shootouts, is another hotspot for paranormal activity. Patrons have claimed to see shadowy figures crossing behind the counter or moving through the dining area, and some have even felt a sudden, inexplicable pressure, as if someone or something is standing just behind them. Staff members at the St. James Hotel often recount similar experiences. Housekeepers report hearing footsteps trailing them through empty hallways, and maintenance workers speak of tools being inexplicably moved. The front desk occasionally receives reports from guests who insist that they have heard conversations, laughter, or shouting coming from rooms that have been unoccupied for decades. These consistent accounts over the years suggest that the paranormal activity is neither random nor fleeting, but an enduring characteristic of the hotel itself. The atmosphere of the St. James Hotel contributes to its haunting presence. Its high ceilings, wooden beams, and narrow hallways create spaces where sound and shadow carry in ways that seem almost unnatural. Faded wallpaper, creaking floors, and the dim light from antique fixtures combine to enhance the impression that the past is not entirely gone. Even in daylight, the building exudes a sense of history and latent tension, as though the echoes of gunfire, whispered arguments, and hurried footsteps have left a permanent imprint on its structure. Visitors often describe a mix of fear and fascination, while the ghostly figures, phantom gunfire, and sudden touches can be unsettling. Many are captivated by the vivid connection to the past. Staying in the hotel becomes an immersive experience, offering not just comfort and history, but a palpable link to the wild, unpredictable life of the Old West. Guests leave with memories not only of the and hospitality, but of the lingering sense that the spirits of Cimarron, lawmen, outlaws, and ordinary travelers are still very much present. Ultimately, the St. James Hotel is a testament to a violent yet compelling period of American history. Its walls have absorbed centuries of conflict, celebration, and tragedy, and those energies seem to persist, manifesting in ghostly apparitions, phantom sounds, and tactile sensations. For anyone walking its hallways at night, it is clear that the hotel is more than a building. It is a living repository of memory, a place where the past continues to reach out, insisting that it will not be forgotten. And so our journey comes to an end. 20 shadows from New Mexico's haunted past, each one whispering from the edges of time. These forts, hotels, deserts, and plazas are more than landmarks. They are echoes, lingering reminders that history does not rest quietly. The next time you find yourself beneath New Mexico's endless sky, take a moment to pause, feel the stillness, listen to the wind, and remember, you might not be standing there alone. Thank you for walking this dark and dusty road with me tonight. If you felt the chill of these haunted tales, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this story with others who crave the mysterious. Until we meet again, travel carefully, trust your instincts, and never forget, the spirits are closer than you think.